Take a step. 1, 2, 3, go. Lift up. Turn it.
Shovels in a fresh mound of dirt down in Dickinson. A rare sign of promised economic progress in this deeply divided town. It's an empty field right now, but the plans are to create a 3-acre recreation area here along Highway 3, right across from City Hall, a big pavilion for events, homage to the town's bicentennial celebration. Hard to believe looking at it today, but back in the 1890s, this was known as the picnic grounds, home of the Texas Coast Fair. Thousands would come here.
This is a momentous moment in the city of Dickinson's history, part of re-envisioning what the downtown of Dickinson can be.
And they're hoping this park will help calm a deeply divided city.
With everything that we have going on as a city, we need to come together.
But like everything else they do here in Dickinson, this project was shrouded in unnecessary secrecy. The first public mention came after a closed executive session of the Dickinson EDC last November. A vote to spend $2.1 million to fix this place up. The public was not notified in advance there would even be a vote.
This is a project that we wanted to turn dirt quickly.
The project went to a local company called Branch Construction. There was no public bid. There are drawings for what it may look like, but no construction plans. It was the perfect project to open up for a community debate on what should go here. But that's not the way these folks roll. It has led to deep distrust, especially of the mayor, Sean Skipworth.
They've got nothing to show for millions and millions of city taxpayers' dollars. We have nothing. We have less than we had when they showed up.
The EDC has spent $679,000 for that Water Street project, the development that's been promised for years and hasn't yet happened. We finally got a hold of the EDC ledger after it was illegally withheld from us, and we've been trying ever since to decipher where all the tax money is gone. And these public records will only fuel the anger about secrecy. We learned the EDC has spent $4.4 million in sales tax revenue since October of 2020. But for what? A chunk going to consultants who were supposed to get developers to come to town. Remember James Beers, caught on videotape celebrating his contract with the city manager? His firm has been paid $93,000 in just 3 months. Beers is supposedly working on 4 projects that have yet to materialize and was paid to pitch Dickinson at conventions. It apparently hasn't worked. And there's $250,000 in legal fees just by the EDC. That doesn't count the money the city council is spending on $500 an hour lawyers. And ProSource, used to advise and then conceal real estate deals from the public, they've been paid $944,000 in the last year and a half. Jesse Brantley, who holds seats on both the EDC and City Council, recuses himself when the vote happens, but he's a project manager for the company, hired right before ProSource got all those contracts.
Probably a mistake.
So why does the EDC need a third company to buy their real estate?
History has proven if a city directly goes out and starts to procure property, all adjacent property owners raise their price because they want to try to capitalize on that opportunity.
I get keeping a government real estate deal secret until it's done, but once it's done, it should be on full display, and taxpayers in a public agenda should be told why you're buying it. The EDC should explain publicly why they spent $370,000 to buy this house on Ohio Avenue, valued on the tax rolls at $150,000 less. Even the ledger tries to hide stuff. The EDC spent $1.9 million in September for this address, 6501 Stewart Road. That's a bank building down in Galveston. Former EDC members say that's a secret way of hiding where the EDC is really buying properties. Present and former city officials tell us the $1.9 million may have been spent on this vacant land on the far east side of Dickinson.
ProSource bought the property. They paid more than the appraisal price for the property.
The question is why? This wasn't land in high demand.
Transparency is part of the problem.
The now resigned EDC Executive Director Cortland Holman apparently convinced the EDC on buying this land first, claiming a developer wanted the property but needed the EDC to buy the land for them. They did. No developer moved forward, if there ever was one, but it sounds like the EDC is still trying. Holman resigned as executive director of the EDC at the end of the year. He also left in controversy from the city of Freeport. He has not yet been replaced. Put together, Galveston County tax rolls now show the EDC owns more than $13.1 million in property, much of it empty land. If you want to add to the outrage, this giant stack of documents details money spent on conventions, $81,000 in just 1 year, including trips to Vegas, big dinner bills that hide possible booze. The records show the EDC even paid for Brantley's wife to go to Sin City. Don't see any evidence of reimbursement. This small park will likely not end the drama unfolding in Dickinson. The latest shoe to drop, the city secretary suddenly resigned, just days after rejecting for a second time petitions to recall Mayor Skipworth.
There have been a lot of hit pieces. I mean, I'm the Dick of Dickinson, as everybody heard, right, on YouTube, right? That's my moniker.
Recall organizers say they fixed the technical problems with the first petitions, but it didn't seem to matter.
I think it's just going to do more harm. I think it's going to wake a lot more people up at this point to see actually what's going on in Dickinson.
Some of our followers on Facebook in Dickinson suspected Earps was forced to reject the petitions. A City Hall source confirms that it wasn't her idea to say no. Hundreds more validated voters than necessary want the mayor to either resign or they want an election to try and take him out of office.
Next up, we'll appeal it to City Council.
Recall organizers expect a full and angry crowd at the next council meeting. They'll be asking them to override the city secretary. Those who vote no may be setting the stage for an even bigger recall. And the recall wasn't the only controversial item scheduled to be on the agenda. The mayor had promised the owners of Creekside Apartments their plan to redevelop the now shuttered low-income complex would be presented to council. But it's not there. It was 14 months ago the city agreed to redevelop Creekside, but they haven't pulled the trigger. We would try and ask the mayor why the new delay in the Creekside vote, but we're being told he has literally disappeared from City Hall. First saying he was sick, but he's missed multiple meetings since then. And it did not go unnoticed that the mayor missed the big groundbreaking ceremony. Taxpayers need to be watching this case. No deal would likely mean litigation that could bankrupt Dickinson.
I feel like I've been done wrong. I had a $30 million property that is now worthless. I need answers.
That was Creekside's owner last year. Since then, present and former city employees have provided documented evidence to our investigators and to the lawyers for the Calcan family that the city targeted the Creekside complex and the 200 low-income families who were living there long before inspectors showed up with police in May of 2022, a possible civil rights violation. And we've seen evidence the city misrepresented the extent of the problems at the low-income apartment complex. Some Creekside buildings clearly had violations, but owners say
The mayor himself has stepped onto my property and spoke to my residents and said, look, this place is so terrible, right? If I were you, I would not pay rent. Don't worry about rent. Don't pay rent.
The Calcan family says they can document the crash in rent, but they have refused to discuss the case publicly since hiring lawyers. We know from public testimony, the owners had worked out a plan to fix the violations with the City Building Commission. But then a suspicious gas leak in November of 2022 led the city to shut down the hot water and refuse to turn it back on. It was a bolt that was loose on the boiler. The owners called it sabotage. Residents all forced out during the Christmas holidays. With little choice, the Calcan family say they worked on a plan for what would be the biggest development in the city's history. It included a new city hall, a new police headquarters. But it's been 14 months and Creekside is still shuttered. The owners telling us last year they were already losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in rent every month. We do not know how long the Calcan family will wait before the billion-dollar company goes to war with the city if a deal is not reached.
We'll be discussing Creekside, in due time.
But not this next time?
I'm not at liberty to be discussing that right now, so.